Hi guys, it's Chala with Crafting Through the Chaos of Life. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to show you a bounty of backgrounds with two different background techniques. We're going to start off with these watercolor markers. The first ones are just some Artist Loft brand, and the second are using the Zig Real Clean Water markers. I also have a piece of acetate here that I'm going to be using, and then this is just the replacement mat for my Tim Holtz glass mat that I'll be using underneath just so that you can see the colors. I have some A2 size cardstock, and let's get started. So I'm just putting that acetate over top of that white mat just so that you can see the colors that I'm going to be putting down onto this acetate piece. Really, this is just the smooshing technique that I'm sure most of you are familiar with. It's just using these watercolor markers. You can also use as well distress oxides and distress inks to do this technique. I just thought this was going to be a fun and quick way to get these backgrounds done. So I'm just going to go through and pick some colors here of what I want to use, and I'm going to scribble them down onto my little piece of acetate. The one thing you do want to be aware of is make sure that you are using colors that are complementary to each other. You don't want anything or put colors next to each other that are going to create a muddy color. Unless that's something that you're going for, you want more of some browns created. Otherwise, they will create that kind of muddy color for you. I just have a spray bottle here, and I'm going to quickly spray over top of these markers, and then I'm going to lay my panel down on top, directly on top, and then I'm going to use my fingers running it along. It doesn't matter if it moves, if it wiggles, and you'll see the edges coming up here, folding up. That's when you know it's ready to pull off. And then there we go. We have a really fun background. You can go ahead, and if you've missed spots, you can go back in and dab up some more of that smooshing ink. This one I just liked it the way it is, so I'm going to go ahead and heat it with my heat gun here, and that will also help to flatten out that panel. Now you can let these air dry, there's no problem with that. I just wanted to quickly get these colors set to make sure that they weren't going to run all over the place, as I have a limited amount of space on my craft table right now, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to run into anything else. So let's go ahead and get started on the next panel. I'll just quickly clean off my mat here with just a microfiber cloth will work, or a paper towel, whatever you find handy. It wipes off really quickly. And then I can go ahead and find some new colors to go ahead and put together. I really like the look of the blue and greens together, and I do want to add a red. I think that will look nice. And so I'm just going to pull these four colors out, and we'll go ahead and scribble those down onto the acetate. Again, there's no perfect way to scribble these. Just scribble them however you like. I'm just randomly scribbling them down onto this acetate, trying to be mindful of where I put them just because I don't want too many muddy colors. And this last color, just doing some green. And that is as simple as it is. We'll go ahead and bring back our little spritzer. I'll spray a good amount on. This time I'm going to spray a little bit more and then just kind of blend it a little bit together by moving that acetate back and forth. We'll lay that panel down again, giving it a little wiggle, pressing it down firmly on the back. And then as soon as those corners start to curl up, you know it's ready to pick up. So we'll just leave it, and then you can see it curling up, and I can go ahead and pull it up. And look at that. Look how beautiful that is. I'm so excited about this background. I can't wait to make it into a card. And I'll go ahead and just set that aside to dry, and I'll wipe off my surface and get ready to make the next backgrounds. Alright, now that I have that acetate cleaned off, it's just simply going ahead. This time I'm going to be using my Zig Clean Real Color brush markers, pulling out some random colors that I think would look good together, some orange, purples, blue, and pink. And I'm just going to go ahead and, again, same process, just scribbling it right down onto that acetate, trying to make sure I'm not getting that purple and orange too close together, because that will create a muddy color. And then I'll spritz it again with that water, and this time I'm just going to lay it directly right on top, pressing the edges down. Again, it'll start to curl up once it's ready. And look at that. Oh, I had two pieces there. Go ahead and add some color where it didn't get on. And that looks beautiful as well. That's going to be an interesting one. And you can always just re-add some water and then pick up whatever residue is left over onto another card panel. And then this creates just a more subtle look. And there we go. We've got 4 quick panels to make cards with. For the last one, I am going to go ahead and try and control the scene a little bit more. I have an idea of maybe like a beach scene. So really what I want to do is I want to put this brown, and then I kind of want some greens in there just to kind of resemble some, you know, a bit of land, like some sand and land, and then into the ocean kind of colors and sky. And I'm just trying to see if I can really control where the smushing kind of goes, and see if I can, you know, kind of control a bit more of how my background looks. We'll give it a go here. Not sure if it's going to work out. Again, just scribbling the colors on. There's no rhyme or reason onto how I get the color on there. Just getting it really on there in scribbles or circles, whatever feels best to you. Wanted to make sure that covered the entire length of the panel of my card. Sprucing it really well with my mister. Again, this is just a cheap mister from a dollar store. You can use the Tim Holtz mister if you have one. Those work great as well. Just moving these colors back and forth just to get them to move a little bit so that it covers the entire panel. I'll go ahead and lay this down. Again, pressing it down, making sure I press down the edges and kind of move that ink underneath that cardstock. Again, when it starts to curl up on the edges, I know that it's going to be ready to pull up. I'm just going to, actually I had a lot of water on there, so I'm going to pick that up with this incredibly dirty microfiber cloth. And then I'm going to go ahead, and you can see it's lifting up, pull that up, and look at this. That is such a subtle but yet beautiful background. I know it doesn't look like much yet, but just wait till we go ahead and create a card with it. It's going to be great. Alright, so now we have 5 panels done, and I'm going to just heat this one again because it's curling so much. I want to flatten it out, and I don't want the color to run too much on it. So I'm just going to quickly heat it with my heat gun just to kind of freeze that in place for how it's blended right now. Alright, so I was looking at this panel and I was okay with it, but I wanted to darken it up a bit more. So I brought in a darker brown, and I wanted to see if I could intensify the bottom of that panel just a little bit more with a darker type of brown. It looked a little too orange for me, so I thought I'd bring in this darker Zig Real Clean marker here, just again scribbling it down, nothing too fancy. And again, I'll layer the colors again, just bringing in, this time I went with the blue instead of the green. I just wanted to see if that kind of intensified the color on the panel. So you can always go ahead and go back and add more layers to it if you're not 100% happy. That's fine too. You can do it as many times as you want. Just remember being careful that the more you put on top of it, if they're not you know, complementary colors, they will get a little bit muddy. Again, if that's not a problem for you, not a big deal, just go ahead and practice and try it out and see what you can come up with. Again, just spritzing the water. Now I'm going to try and line up this panel and see if I can intensify those colors just a little bit more. It was just a bit light for me. Rubbing the ink down, and again waiting for the corners to curl up. And you can see it starting there, and I'll go ahead and lift that off. And that gave me a more intense look. I like that just a little bit better. I kind of actually like that watermark look that it's giving me, that kind of hard edge of that watercolor line. I like the look of that. I think it's going to work really well for what I have in mind for this card panel. We're going to move on to our next backgrounds, which is some Distress Oxide blending with some masking tape. This is removable label tape that I'm using from Post-it. I forgot to turn on my camera for this, but you can see I put the tape down and then did some ink blending, and I actually went over top of the colors just to get some new colors. So I used the Abandoned Coral, the Spiced Marmalade, and the Ripe Persimmon, and I ended up getting some new colors just by layering those colors over top of each other. And I'll show you how to do that here in the next. All right, as you can see, I'm just laying that Post-it tape down. I've gone ahead and actually wiped off the ink off the Post-it tape, that Ripe Persimmon color, with my just my microfiber cloth, just so that it wouldn't run onto anything. You can also hit it with your heat gun or leave it overnight, but I just wanted to reuse this Post-it tape just because I like to reuse as much of my materials as I can, just to get my money's worth out of them. So as you can see here, I am starting out with the cracked pistachio and one of these distress her magic blending brushes, I guess they're called. This actually worked really well. It put down a really nice amount of this distress oxide. I think it really helped too that I actually have it, my pads are like really juicy, and so it put down a lot of color down, you know, quite quickly and nicely. Sometimes I find I use the foam blending brushes if I really want to get a good thick layer down. Like I said, this time my ink pad seemed nice and juicy, so I got a lot down quickly. Just trying to quickly clean up my ink as I go along, just so that I'm not spreading it or contaminating any of my panel where I don't want the ink to be. I will gently peel this up. Now, this particular piece of cardstock that I had isn't my usual cardstock that I use. I usually use the 120 pound. This was a piece that got kind of shuffled into my cardstock, and it is a thinner piece. It is maybe 80 pound. So it's a lot thinner, and for some reason the adhesive of my Post-it tape really stuck to it and got really kind of like gummy. I thought I would try to work with it though and see if I could still ink blend, and I ink blend, but it still remains quite sticky. Just going ahead with the Salty Ocean here on the other side of this panel, again masking off where I want the ink to be. But like I said, as you can see, it's kind of gumming up there, and it's not, the ink isn't getting to all the areas because that adhesive is really has like a protective barrier over it. I do persevere, and I managed to get a good amount of ink over top of this, and yeah, I just kind of make it work, and you'll see I don't throw the panel out because I don't like to throw out things even if they don't work. I want to try and make them work one way or another, and I'll show you how I kind of work with that later on in the video. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed up this blending process for you to see how I blended it along, and yeah, it's just a really quite simple background technique. Okay, I'm just finishing up this last panel here, and then I will remove the tape, and you can see the crisp lines that I got from there. This time I didn't overlap the colors, I didn't create any new ones, I just stuck with the three that I used there. The Faded Jeans, Salty Ocean, and Cracked Pistachio. I think that's a great color combination. And here's a look at all four panels that I did. Again, you can see this one here is just the three colors. This one I overlapped, creating some of those new colors. This is that sticky one. Unfortunately, I'll show you how I deal with that. This one is just the three colors again, and then this last panel is overlapping to get these new colors. So I think these look really cool, and I'm excited to play with them. Alright, now it's time to show you how I turned all these panels into cards. This is the ink smooshed one that I tried to kind of control for a beach scene. As you can see there, I have layered up some different cardstock there just to give it dimension. I really like the lighthouse stamp there. This is the set that I used. I'm not sure where it came from. If anybody knows, feel free to leave that in the comments down below, but it was just an older set that I have gotten from different swaps instead. The sentiment I got from this set here, it's got some great stamps as well. If you know where this came from, leave that comment down below. Our next card, I'm going to be using this Happy Birthday die cut sentiment. I think I got that online. This Viola plate, I'm going to be using layer A. There are several different layers that come in the set. It's a gorgeous set, well worth the money. There is A, B, and C layers for this, and they work so well together. and actually using them separately, which I'm going to do today, just using that layer A. I'm also using Dynamics stacked rectangles just to cut the panels out. I'll be using that set quite a bit for all of my cards today. I just have some pink cardstock here. It's a nice bright pink. I think it's just a Recollections brand, and I'm just really taping it up with my tape runner here, making sure I get the edges really nice and crisp. My tape runner is not playing nicely today, so I'm having troubles getting it in the corners there. And just making sure it's not going to lift off my card base. Adhere that down onto an A2 size card base, trying to get it nice and centered. If anyone has any tips on how to get these panels centered nicely, I would love to know, because I seem to struggle with this all the time. I do finally get it in place and press it down there. Yeah, that looks good. We'll push it down. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring the rest of our panels in. This is our ink smushed panel. And I believe what I'm using, I think this panel was the Zig Real Clean brush markers. I debated whether or not I wanted to have it a vertical card or horizontal. In the end, I decided to go to horizontal. I thought it looked better. It filled the space better. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my art glitter glue and apply that to the back of this delicate die cut. You can also use Gina K Connect glue, which I recommend because Gina K Connect has a little bit more wiggle room. This art glitter glue, once it's down, it is down, you are committed, you're not going to be able to pick it up or move it around. I'm going to speed this up because you don't need to watch me glue forever and a day, and we have several card panels to get through today. So again, just making sure I get all the little bits so it doesn't lift up. Laying that down on that ink smushed piece. Making sure it's all down nicely, and then just going ahead and adhering that panel down. Again, if you have art glitter glue, put a pin in it right away, otherwise it's going to clog up on you and give you some issues. Making sure that's centered in that panel. I have mirrored cardstock for my sentiment, again using art glitter glue just to adhere that down. I thought it would be nice to add a little bit of shine to this card, just to kind of make the sentiment pop. And that finishes this card. If you want, you can add some bling, some sequins, whatever you like. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next card. It is this Elizabeth Crafts die that I'm going to be using. This is a gorgeous die. I will link it down below. It is, like, look at this. It comes with the outside die as well as the inside piece, which is this here. So it gives you that extra kind of rectangle die piece. This is one of our subtler ink smushing pieces. I was just playing around to see which panel I really liked this up against the best. We're going to go to the first panel that we did. I don't mind that. That looks pretty cute. But as soon as I lay, as soon as I lay this next panel down, it just did it for me. Look at that. That is gorgeous. I even tried it against one of the ink blended pieces that we did, but it just, no. I mean, it looked okay, but it just didn't do it for me like that last panel did. So I'm going to go ahead and use it on this one here. Again, play around with your different dies that you have on hand and to see how you can step up these backgrounds that we're creating. Mix and match with different sets as well. It's amazing what you can come up with. Alright, so I've gone ahead and finished that card off screen so we're not here forever. I added that just saying hello, back that on a piece of black cardstock. This is the Thinking of You stamp set from Hero Arts that I have the sentiment from. And then I added a few little gems just to make it pop. My next card, I'm using the Kinsley Heart. Again, this one has 3 layers to it. It has a layer A, B, and C. And I'm using layer A for this one. I've die cut that out of some 120-pound cardstock, and I am just simply tracing the heart onto the piece that I like best. So I laid down that die cut piece over top of different areas of that card panel and just traced it where I thought it looked the best. I am not throwing any of these excess little bits that I cut off out. I'm going to be saving those and using them for other projects because I can die cut smaller images out of them. I can also use them for sentiments as well. So don't ever throw these away. I know it seems like, what am I going to use them for? But trust me, if you have smaller die cuts like butterflies or other smaller hearts, flowers, it works really well just to kind of use up and have those on hand for other embellishments for future cards. So again, just fussy cutting this out with my scissors. Nothing really fancy here. And again, saving that piece for later. And then I just think that looks like such a fun tie-dyed heart. I think it looks so cute. And now I'll just go ahead and use my glitter glue again and just simply adhere it to all the little bits and pieces and adhere that down onto the card base. I kept this card really simple, just using a simple Miss You sentiment, using some white heat embossing for that. Moving right along to our next card, again I'm using that Thinking of You stamp set, and I'm sending Warm Fuzzies as well as this Lavinia stamp set for those kind of dandelion pieces. I think that one looked so cute. Okay, so here is the panel that got really sticky. I didn't know what to do with it. I kind of rubbed off all the adhesive that was on it, but then it kind of left smears and marks on my panel. So I decided to bring in this stencil and my my Faded Jeans ink, and I decided to lay the stencil down and just ink blend all over it with this Faded Jeans to see if I could save it. Again, I didn't want to throw it out. I spent the time inking it up, and I guess I could have tried to line up the adhesive, or sorry, words are hard today. I could have lined up the post-it tape again, but I was really afraid I'd have that same issue with the adhesive sticking again, and I didn't want to take that risk. So I thought I would try and save it with a stencil. Again, just using that blending brush, inking right over top. This brush actually worked really well with the intricacies of this stencil. It blended really nicely. I got nice crisp edges and it didn't lift the stencil up. It also really helped that I'm using this Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. It really helps to hold the stencil down and in place, and it gives me a nice surface to ink blend on. So I'd recommend this this ink station, or this Make Art Station from Wendy Vecchi. It's been really useful. The only thing I don't like about it is once you ink blend over top of it like this and you go to wipe it down, the grid lines are coming off. So that's my only, only negative I have to say on that. All right, lifting that stencil up, and this is what we're left with. It's okay. I don't mind it. I think it could work for a panel, but I'm still not 100% really happy with it. And how I get over that is honestly, I am just using these letter die cuts. I'll have to link them down below, see if I can find out where I got them from. But I just ran them through my Gemini Junior and cut out these letters just to spell thank you out of this panel. Like I said, I wasn't happy with the way that it turned out the way it was, but it worked really well for these die cut letters. I was really happy with how that turned out. So we're going to go ahead and speed this up and I'll show you how it turned out. Here is a look at that finished card, keeping it really simple. You can always add bling if you want to. I just decided to keep it nice and simple for this one. Our next card I went ahead and did off screen. I've used this stacked rectangle die set again from My Favorite Things and just created this kind of offset look here. I think that's really fun. Again, add bling if you want. For the last two card panels, I'm just going to show you the finished product. This is just a simple die cut over top of the panel, keeping it really simple. Again, add bling if you want. This is just some stamping and a simple sentiment. Again, here's a look at the rest of the cards that we finished up. I think they turned out so beautiful. Again, you can mass produce these backgrounds and create awesome cards by adding different die cuts, different sentiments, using just all the different types of products that you have on hand already. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope I've given you some inspiration to use what you have on hand and create a whole bunch of bounty of backgrounds. Thanks so much, guys, and until next time, P.S. I love you. I just want to thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're looking for specific materials that I've used in today's video, go ahead and check out the links down below. As well, I'd really love it if you sent me some snail mail. I'm always interested to know what you guys have been up to and what you've been creating, and I'd love to share your cards on my next video. Thanks so much again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. P.S. I love you.